Okay, looks like we are recording. And wait, let me wait for the timer. Okay, we're good. All right, guys, I'm so excited to have on the program Jo-Anne McArthur, who is, I think that we throw this word around a lot. I don't mean to embarrass you, Jo-Anne, but we throw the word legend around a lot. I think that really applies to you. I can tell you, I've had a very fortunate, charmed life where I've met a lot of extraordinary people, but getting to meet you was pretty surreal for me. So, yes, if you don't know Jo-Anne McArthur, she is a legendary photojournalist, animal rights photojournalist. You've probably come across her work, even if you didn't know it. Her work is ubiquitous. It's out there, a lot of big publications, thousands and thousands of photographs. Um, it's a real honor to have you. Thanks for coming on, Jo-Anne.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to our talk.
Well, good. Me too. And I'll just say before we even get started, if you're just listening to this as an audio podcast, we're going to be looking at some of Jo-Anne's photographs and other photographs. So this one might be more of a visual experience. But before we get to there, let me just start with the basic, boring question of how this all got started for you, how you got into photojournalism and founded We Animals.
I think that I was pretty obsessed with humanitarian and conflict photography before I realized I could do that same kind of work for animals. So I already I grew up with not only a love for animals but a concern for animals and an obsession with looking at photography. Never thought that I could be a photographer because war photographers were middle-aged white men, and yeah, and until I just undertook it and got pretty obsessed with street photography, going out and gathering stories, which is like what photographers love to do. It satisfies our curiosity for the world. But the more I learned about factory farming, the more I saw that these animals who suffered in majorly high numbers were totally neglected. They're not wildlife, so we don't care. They're not companion animals, so we don't care. I was like, okay, well, I think I have my life's work cut out for me. I was really passionate about it, so I dove in, started doing investigations with groups like Animal Equality and Djurrättsalliansen in Sweden. And
Mhm.
away I went. Maybe I'll pause there because I probably could just keep going for 20 minutes on that one.
Yeah, well, just looking at your bio, I've read up on you now that you've gone now to over like 60 countries doing this kind of work. So it's taken you all over the world. And yeah, you've dove into some really heavy subject matter, obviously. Oh, but before we get to that, did did animal rights come first for you before you started to get into photojournalism, or was that something that you started to discover along the way as you were doing this kind of work?
Like a lot of people, I loved animals but ate them. That was normal, natural, and necessary. And not that I even thought of it in those terms, but I do use those terms now when I think about why so many animal lovers eat animals. And I would have always said I had a love and concern for animals, but they were on my plate every day. Chicken was my favorite food until I met some chickens
Mhm.
and got to know them. We had cats, dogs, and then mom had some chickens for a while, and I was like, shit, like they are complex just like the other animals. And I was devastated that I had been eating animals and kind of devastated that I was going to not eat animals anymore because they were my favorite food. And I didn't really know well, I didn't know any vegans. So it was a long process. I didn't go vegan overnight. Over the course of a few years, I became pescatarian and vegetarian and all this. I think I went off topic there with your question. So what came
No,
first, like the animal rights or the photography? I think they were just a nice, like, step by step, seeing that I wanted to get involved in both. And as a photojournalist, you want to find your topic, like what are you really passionate about and what are you going to be really good at. Um, yeah, and then away I went, and I couldn't have done all those investigations without the groups that I worked with. Investigations are hard, and you need a security team, and I had no idea about those things. Some places you just buy a ticket and go in and document, like a bullfight, a rodeo, circus, that kind of thing. But when it comes to farms and other things, you need a team. And so I called up groups and said, hey, I take good pictures. Can I come along? And they said yes, because they needed not just activists with cameras, but people who had the skills to take good, poignant images that get people to look and to not turn away. So I built a reputation for myself over the course of a few years, being out in the world. I was doing my regular photography, weddings. I've shot over 500 or 600 weddings, and that would pay for the good stuff, which was the documentary work. But over time, I built a reputation, and people started saying, hey, maybe I'll donate to you, or, we can pay your costs to come and do something. And things escalated from there.
Yeah. So you're the subject of this great film, The Ghosts in Our Machines. It's now over a decade old. It's a great film. I highly recommend to people. And it's really at the start, it takes the viewer along with you on this investigation of a fur farm. And I'm sure for you, this is the tip of the iceberg. You've probably done so many investigations like that. And I'm sure there's constantly this struggle of like, what can you share? Like, especially in a film like this, there's questions of legal risk. There's questions of all sorts of things. But I highly recommend people to watch that film, because that was a really, that really summed up what sort of an investigation is like, I believe, especially at a fur farm. And it was you and I believe a couple of other people, and really intense situation. So like you said, the reputation that you've built up is not only for the great shots that you're getting, but also the risk that you're putting yourself in. I'm sure these are calculated risks, but you're having to go undercover in many cases to places where they don't want you to see what you're showing the world. So did that come naturally for you? Did you have to kind of build that up, or were you just like, I'm all in, let's go?
Well, all of those things. I was definitely all in, definitely terrified as well. I mean, trespassing at night, sneaking around, getting caught, you can be put in jail, you can be beat up. A lot of my investigator friends have been jailed and beat up. Not fun at all, but I'm definitely persistent. Like, when people care about doing investigations, it's not enjoyable. It's just enjoyable when you leave with the images safely tucked in your camera, or maybe a chicken tucked under your arm as well. That film is a gorgeous film, and I was very lucky that the Canadian director, Liz Marshall, wanted to make an animal rights film and needed a heroine. And so she asked me if I would be in this film, and she could just do like a really artistic close-up film of the experience of an animal person, an investigator, someone who's fighting the good fight against all odds. So you see me go into, talk to photo editors and photo agencies, and one of them says, like, this is good stuff, and more or less, like, we don't know what we're going to do with it, but we'll try and help.
Yeah.
Total uphill battle, and that makes me an interesting subject. So persevering against the odds, and I'm a very different person now, but it's still a very, very good film. It's a good portrait of the people like me who fight really hard to get these photos out into the world.
Yeah, and like you just alluded to, that meeting, like the film starts out basically with this very frustrating meeting that you have, where, yeah, like you just described, they're like, yeah, this is great, nobody's going to publish it, and then you go to some friends of yours and you say, yeah, I feel like I had that meeting like 3 years ago. We had that same meeting. So I told you even before we started recording, like, I kind of wanted to revisit this film because that was 10 years ago, and I'm wondering
12,
how.
12.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so longer than that. So I'm wondering, are you still dealing with those? I'm sure you are. I'm going to answer. Are you still dealing with those sorts of frustrations now? Because you'll get these things. They may be too graphic to publish, and you get this like sympathetic kind of, oh, that's great, and this like concern. are you sleeping okay? And that's another thing you talked about the PTSD that you had. And yeah, just going into these hellholes over and over again to try to gather this footage and then not being able to always use it. Now, of course, that's changed with We Animals,
Mhm.
but yeah, so how has it changed for you in the last like 10 plus years?
Yeah, first of all, We Animals was a project. It was a personal project then. And now it's a nonprofit organization, 12 staff, over 175 contributing photographers now. So we are
Mhm.
so proud of that. We've created a genre of photography, very simply called animal photojournalism, which we can talk about. Um, and I built it because I just wanted to be more strategic. I was shooting all over the world, but the images would just hang out on a hard drive and they needed to be out into the world. So the first step was to create a free platform where people could download the images, and that was great. And we started getting grants for that. And now we're very strategic. Like, we are in service to the animal advocacy movement. So we look at what their needs are. They come to us with what their needs are, and we do assignments, we do free shoots. Photographers come to us with pitches like, hey, I want to photograph fish farming in Czechia. I want to photograph donkey uses in Brazil, and we give them money to execute those shoots, and then the whole movement can use those images. But I got off topic again. Bring me back. Bring me
Well,
back.
I'll share this, like, just sort of talking about We Animals and how it's grown.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
mentioned like how many photojournalists you have. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, about the media challenges, they are different now. Um, Without naming names, a prominent photo editor,
Mm,
a world famous photo editor, said to me she was very proud of having helped build conservation photography, which was a step farther than wildlife photography. Wildlife, let's just call that like images of, beautiful images of animals.
right.
Conservation has more of an activist purpose. And she said, I'm very proud of what we built, but what you're doing is the next frontier.
Mm,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
So
I
there's
agree.
more buy-in, but there's still a lot of hesitancy for big media to publish stories like this. And we are also still a very anthrocentric society with major political problems in the world and war, and so those get prioritized. We're currently pitching a story about animal rescues in Gaza, and we're not sure how and when it's going to land, because people are like, "Are you kidding me? Like, who cares about the donkeys and the dogs and the cats?" But not everyone thinks that. I would say that the door is slowly opening. I thought it would be faster, and it's not. That's a
Mhm,
bit
mhm,
frustrating. But, we published a book about this really hardcore investigative work that we do, and it's called Hidden Animals in the Anthropocene. And
mhm.
that book won one of the biggest awards in the world for photojournalism, for photography. We were
Wow.
shocked. The awarding group is called Picture of the Year International, and they uh, give awards to images, single images, but also books. And not only did we get an award for the book, we got the top award, the biggest award. So we
Amazing.
can see, yeah, we can see that people are really starting to understand that we shouldn't be ignoring, we shouldn't be ignoring these incredible issues of horrific animal abuse, because the numbers are so high as well. So yeah, things are changing slowly, and that's part of our strategy, is to just keep plugging away at that. It's sometimes much easier to get local media on a local story. Sometimes if the story feels universal, like it has universal characters, then it can go with a bigger, more international publication. It's a whole thing. It's a struggle with progress being made.
Yeah, yeah. I volunteer with the Direct Action Everywhere press team, and what you're describing is a lot of what we discuss every week in the meetings. It's just like the frustration. Who do we pitch to? By the way, one of the images that you sent me was one of the great stories that was published in National Geographic. So we'll get to that one.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and I mentioned that I was going to interview you today, and he was like, "Oh wow," and, he was like, "Yeah, I've been, she's been one of my heroes for a long time,"
Mm.
and he shared with me that maybe it was 10, 15 years ago that he would donate to We Animals, and at that time you sent him handwritten notes thanking him back, so he was receiving these thank yous back from me. I think that kind of shows your character, but also shows, like how We Animals has grown. Like, I'm sure like, you don't always have the ability to respond to everything these days,
Ah,
thankfully, that it's grown.
I'm so glad that was a nice experience for him. And it's an amazing experience for me as well, me and We Animals, but me personally as the founder, whether someone's donating $5 a month or $100 a month, they're choosing us over anyone else. They've thought about it and they're like, yeah, I'm putting my money here. I believe in this organization. And
Yeah.
so I'm immensely curious about our donors. Like, who are they? Why they choose us? What is their love of animals? What are their hopes for the future? And I'd love to have a bunch of full-time jobs at We Animals. I'd love to be the communications director. I'd love to be like just focused on fundraising 100% of the time, because then I could just interact with all the friggin' cool people who support us. But then
Right.
I would have no time for shooting and writing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the book, and yeah, you have 3 books out, I believe, of photojournalism, and these are, you know, these are cool things to have around. Like, say you've got some non-vegans around, you just throw one of Jo-Anne's books on your coffee
Mhm.
table, so that maybe somebody starts perusing it. And yeah, these images are powerful. In fact, I should go ahead and start showing some of this stuff. So why don't we start with your website? Let me
Great.
do this here. I have to figure out how to do things. Share screen. Okay, so here's the We Animals homepage right here. So um, already, you're seeing some of these incredible photos. Um, so if you're not, so if you're just listening to this, we're just taking a look at some of these amazing photos, and everybody should check out weanimals.org. And I think the main thing, you can go through and all this, and you can donate, which of course is very important. The main thing here is this stock site, right? Where
Click
you've got,
there. Yeah. And
yeah,
it says we have 35,000 stock photos and videos,
right.
which is soon to be updated to 40,000.
Wow.
We have almost 1,500 NGOs signed up to use our work, which, is exactly what we wanted. And tons of individual users. These get used for campaigns. They get used in academia, media. We see them on protest signs all the time. We just love that.
Yeah. And it's really well organized. You can search, like, here's some cool photos of Jo-Anne. I was like, what thumbnail should I use? So I was looking for photos of Jo-Anne. And so you've got tons of photos here of,
It's
like,
funny. It starts with the photos of me, not my photos, but whatever. That's
right,
fine.
right. When you type that, but you can actually, like, I was playing around with this website yesterday. It's really cool because
Thank you.
you can see all this stuff, right? How you can curate the
Yeah,
images and
you
stuff.
can you can search by black and white or color, vertical, horizontal,
Yeah.
number of people in the picture. You can type in something like Sweden, and then you get a list of all the photographers who shot there and the kinds
Yeah.
of work they shot there. You can search by region, as you can see. We wanted a world-class stock site, and I believe that that's what we built.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can search by photographer, location, animals, types of animals. And yeah, so just really amazing. I mean, look at some of these shots too. I like that's really cool right there. Um, can y'all
Well, that's
see my
and and
pointer, by the way?
that's also the point, is there are a lot of mediocre and poor photos out there
Right.
in animal advocacy, and we have such a challenge getting people to look and to not turn away, that we need excellent images.
Yeah.
And so we try and provide excellent images, or, pretty good images. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, because nowadays, I've got, a pretty decent camera on my phone. I mean, most people have cameras on their phones. So, uh, obviously these photos that we were just looking at, they're world-class photos. So there's quite a difference, but still it must be somewhat challenging when there's that democratization of, everybody can take a photo and a film. How does that make your work more challenging, or does it make it better, or what is it?
Yeah, it doesn't make it more challenging. I would say the vast majority of material we have is with professional cameras and high quality. It has to be high quality with good resolution and good exposure. More and more people are shooting as well on phone cameras, of course, especially video. So we have more phone video available.
Mhm.
And we have some content that's not high quality enough for our standards, but it still shows something useful. And so that goes into our community content folder.
Oh,
So there's more cell phone work there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Hidden
Um,
camera as well. Hidden camera work is generally not very good looking work, but we're increasing the amount of hidden footage as well.
yeah, and you've got, some video footage as well.
Mhm.
So I asked you the other day, if you could send me some photos that meant a lot to you or stood out to you, and you sent me a bunch. And I thought maybe we could take a look at them. Also, kind of just to show, like, me as a layperson, I can look at something and I can see what stands out to me. But I wonder, as someone who's a professional like yourself, what these images have, what are the elements of these images that really stand out to you? So let me go ahead and share a few of these
Yeah,
too.
that's my favorite kind of conversation, and it's conversations I have with people I mentor, or the team. Even within the team, we might argue till we're blue in the face over a certain image and about its qualities and or lack of qualities. And it's really good. Every time you analyze a picture, you learn to take better pictures, and you learn to see um, see images better.
Yeah. Let me start with this one because I already alluded to it. Um, this one was the cover of a National Geographic.
Oh, not
Um,
cover,
oh, not the cover. No, I don't mean the cover, but like the main photo
the
of the
leading
online
image.
story. Yeah, the leading image. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
See, already you're teaching me stuff here. Um,
Or just rudely correcting you, something like that.
Yeah, that's all right though. But what a striking image. I mean, so I'll just say, this image has always been really powerful to me, partly just because of how compelling the activist looks. This story was about open rescue. It shows such an intensity on her face. The black eyeliner and everything makes her really kind of striking to look at. And then of course, just, rescuing this chicken from this horrific place. It really shows, like, to me, it shows like the determination and the courage, and also the vulnerability of being, out there, being put out there, and doing these types of rescue. This story, by the way, was fantastic. Rachel Fobar of National Geographic put together this great story about open rescue. Um, so why don't you tell me a little bit about this one to you and why you sent it?
I'll add to what you've said, and I really appreciate how you've described this image and its various elements that make it a strong image. So we have two focus points. So the activist's face and then this chicken, but it has great elements that inform what's going on. It's a complete image in a way, because you can see what's going on. You can see we're inside a dark and grimy farm, and it's an egg farm. We can see her determination. We can see the condition of the chicken. I mean, chickens
Yeah,
shouldn't look like that. You can even tell that she's debeaked. We can
right.
see, yeah, we can see that the activist is taking biohazard precautions, which is great. You can see that the chicken is going into a box, presumably to be taken out of the farm, which is what happened that night. And it's a unique image. So we don't see a lot of, I mean, you and I see a lot of images like this of open
Mhm.
rescuers, but this is new to the world. People are shocked that anyone would go into a farm and risk themselves in order to, free someone.
Yeah.
And so it's intriguing as well. It's got a lot of good elements, and it's well lit in a dark space, which is really challenging. And we were, well, either I was holding no, I would have had someone holding the LED light on my
Mm.
right while I took the picture. And
Hmm.
lighting can just go so wrong in a dark place. It can be overexposed, underexposed. So it worked out, and it actually was the winner in a competition called Human and Animals. This is a photo competition in Europe, and I was amazed that they awarded this the very top image. They're making a statement as well, like, okay, it's time that we tell this kind of story. I was thrilled.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you mentioned the lighting, and that's another thing that you can see during that fur farm segment of the film we were talking about, where you were actually doing it yourself. You're filming the foxes and also trying to hold up a light with one hand to make sure that you can capture the image well. Um, yeah,
It's
so
challenging. It's challenging. The animals are moving around so much. They're stressed. You're stressed. You're shooting through cage wiring, which creates shadows across the
mm,
animal, and so you want to avoid that. Avoid that. There's so many challenges.
yeah. Well, and this particular image too kind of gets me to a question that was raised right early on in the film, which was, the the pain that you felt of having to leave animals behind. So when you're filming something like this where it is actually a rescue, this is obviously a very different experience. There, obviously many animals are going to still be left behind, but at least in this case you're getting to see a liberation take place. Um and uh so yeah, tell me, I mean, this is a good chance also just to talk about how the changes maybe you've seen I've been only been in the movement for 7 years. Having worked with DXC for a while now, I'm well versed with open rescue and the popularity of that as a means for change. What's your view on how things have changed? Have you seen things go through cycles? And for a while we had like ALF actions, they still happen, and now we also have these open rescues.
For listeners, the difference between ALF and open is that ALF people cover their faces. I
Mm,
think that's one of the main ALF, meaning Animal Liberation Front
yeah.
actions. And those are done more or less anonymously, whereas with open rescues, people say, this is my face, this is what I'm doing, this is why, and they are open about it. Um, what have I seen? What changes have I seen? Yeah, things ebb and flow between the popularity of different kinds of actions, um,
Hmm.
the popularity of grassroots versus, corporate activism, more corporate activism. Those are changes. Those are debates. But when it comes to animals and the use of animals, sadly, we're still seeing an increase in factory farming. It's interesting that there's more vegetarianism, reducitarianism, and veganism, but there's also a lot more factory farming with rising economies. Many of those societies are interested in increasing their meat consumption, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and they're working hard to be able to do that. So, still big battle ahead of us, Jeremy.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let me share this one here. Staying on chickens for a little bit. So yeah, that was interesting, but I really appreciate that description you gave me of that last photo too, and just describing what makes that so powerful is that, like you said, it's this complete picture telling you the whole story. And that's the thing that I would have missed, because yeah, you can see the eggs, you can see the debeaking, you can see what's happening very completely. So this one here, now we're focused completely on the animals, no rescuers. Um, and you can see the debeaking. And I guess this would be, is this a battery cage?
Well, this is actually an enriched cage, believe it or not. So enriched because they removed the walls between a lot of the cages. So they're still in the same system, and the grates on the front are still the same, but they, by taking out this, what's sectioned off each cage, there's now like 35, 40 in a cage, and they can just walk a little farther in a crowded, very crowded
Mhm.
space.
Right.
And it's really important for us investigators to and campaigners to show the improvements in farming. What is an enriched cage? We don't want people to feel good about that, because that's what this is.
Mhm.
Um, mhm. Nest laid. A nest in a cage like this means a little metal platform that they can jump up on, and there's like a little screen so they can get behind that if they want privacy for a moment. It's
Mhm.
really, really shocking. I like this image because, oh, well, first of all, hard to execute with lighting. The lighting worked out really well, and shooting into these kinds of cages, it's honestly, it's just a mess of chickens, and they're moving around really quickly. And I was able to catch it a quiet moment where she's looking out and she's looking up,
Yeah.
and it's sort of a bit dreamlike, and maybe it's a little anthropomorphic, but that's okay. That's usually a dirty word, but
Mhm.
I think that her pose allows us to relate to her, and we need that.
Yeah. Yeah, she has kind of a, yeah, you could almost say like a defiant pose. Yeah, also, you can see her eyes clearly. Like the eyes are, they say that's the window to the soul, right? And animals' eyes, I know you know this so well, having taken so many photos, are so expressive. Um, I think we'll look at some pigs, and yeah, it's just something about the eyes of pigs that are so heartbreaking,
And
especially when
similar
they're on
similar to
photo.
ours, they have different colored eyes the way we do as well.
Oh, right, right. Yeah, you can also see the drooping cones in this, seeing poor condition. You can see some defeathering. Um, although, I'm sure, in this same facility, there were you know, far worse conditions for some of the chickens. Um,
There were this place, I think the cages were stacked 7 or 8 high. There were
mhm.
hundreds of thousands of birds here. We actually got caught on this farm.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, that was just an absolutely terrible moment. We did get away. A
Nice.
sort of
You're a
funny
fast
thing.
runner, huh?
Well, have you heard me talk about running away from this farm?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I am really good at getting away quickly, but not everyone
Right.
is. I'm also very fast. Like, I'm an okay runner, but if I have to I'm a fast runner. And but like, that's all good and well. But if you're leaving your friends behind, it's really lame. So I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm out, like racing through the field, and then I turn around and my friends are like, you know, 200 feet behind me, and one of them, their biohazard suit is like starting to fall and like fall around their ankles, and
Oh,
they're trying to
no.
run. I was like, Joe, you asshole, get back there. So like, I ran all the way back, and we all helped each other run all the way to the car.
Yeah.
Funny now, especially because we got away with all this great footage, but horrific then.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, you're only as fast as your slowest team member, right?
That's right, and everyone has a right to be a slow runner. It's, you know, that's
Not
fine.
on a mission like this, they might not have that right. That's funny though. Yeah, so well, okay, well, yeah, you had mentioned, a lot of your friends spending time in jail and your
Not
colleagues.
Yeah,
And have
yeah.
you have you uh have you had to go through that yourself?
It's just a matter of time. I've been extraordinarily lucky.
Mm,
I'm probably a little more cautious and a little more nervous than other investigators. So
mm,
I might pull the plug a little sooner than others will. I remember one investigator friend, we literally got caught on a farm. We escaped. We waited outside for another hour or two, and he's like, "Okay, let's go back in." Like, are you kidding me? And with the job wasn't done, and he was ready to go. I'm like, "You're friggin' kidding." Anyway, we went. And we got more photos and all this, but like I would never do that.
Well, so that's interesting that you say that you're someone who's more careful, and yet you still come up with these just incredible shots. So that speaks very highly of the amazing work that you can do.
Well,
Um,
you have to pay very close attention and do the best possible job you can in the shortest amount of time. So when I go into a farm, I assume that I might have 5 minutes. And so while yes, there are 5 sheds to explore with hundreds of thousands of animals, I have to assume that I have to get the best possible pictures in 5 minutes. And so I am going to start with the closest animals. I am going to take my time to get good lighting and good composition right then and there. Yeah.
mhm.
And like, luckily, I usually do have a couple of hours, but it's not always the case. So now you've pulled up Konrad Lozinski's picture, a
Okay.
Polish photographer. And this is one of my favorite images on the stock site. Um,
Really?
it's the color editing, the color grading is spectacular. It's almost like a monochromatic image, meaning like a black and white image. It has very few colors. Like the colors in this picture are yellow and green,
Mhm.
and that helps us focus on those animals. And we have the eye contact. We have a really fantastic depth of field, which allows us to see that they're in a kind of warehouse, but really focus on them. We have a
Yeah.
little, the more your eyes follow, like look around the picture, you see there's a little face sticking out bottom left.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
middle, you see a chick looking back at the others. Um, they're curious little animals, and they're in for a world of suffering. They don't know that yet, but it's for us advocates to add that information and make sure people know what's happening and what's going to happen.
Right.
The
Right.
picture is a great launching pad for information and conversations.
Yeah. And so we're looking at chicks. Yeah. And I don't know the fate of these chicks, but for people who haven't dove into the subject, one of the shocking things that you learn when going vegan, I think for most people, is like the culling of male chicks, which most people don't know about, how male chicks are just like ground up alive on their first day of life because they don't lay eggs and they're a different breed from the chickens that we eat. Um, so yeah, are these chicks that we're looking at, or are these chicks females, or do you know what is this?
That I don't remember. I didn't refresh myself with reading the caption before sending it to you. So
Mm,
because they're in that crate, I suspect that they're going to be layers
mhm.
and be put into a cage. But as you said, if they're male, they'll be ground up. If they're female, they will be in a cage for 18 months until they're considered spent, i.e., laying fewer eggs. And then, of course, we raise chickens for meat. We call them broiler chickens, and
Yeah.
those are also among the most abused animals on earth. They typically go to slaughter at about 42 days of age. They're still babies. They're still peeping. We genetically breed them to grow very quickly. Sometimes by the time they're slaughtered, they can no longer walk because of the abnormal weight of their bodies, their breast meat and so on. Pretty horrific.
Yeah. By the way, I didn't mention that, most of these images are non-graphic. They still might be upsetting to some people, but there's one that's kind of graphic, and I'll warn people before we show that.
Is that the
But
clubbing?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely.
would call that highly graphic. One of the most graphic images I've ever shot.
Yeah, so I'll save that for the end, and then I'll just warn people before we show that one, but I
Thank
will
you.
show it. But let's show this because we've already talked about the fur farms, and here's one. Oh wait, I didn't. Sorry, I didn't share it. Gotta learn how to do these types of things better. Here we go. Okay.
Okay, well, let me dive into this one.
Yeah.
This farm I visited several times and documented with a filmmaker, and we gave that material to the Montreal SPCA, which then used the images as proof in order to obtain a warrant to legally investigate that property. As a result of the investigative work we did, they were able to confiscate a lot of the foxes. Unfortunately, many had to be euthanized because they were in such poor health. And these foxes were rehomed. And this investigation led to the first ever criminal charges for animal welfare infractions against a fur farmer in Canadian history.
Wow.
That's one of the main things about animal photojournalism, is that we want these images to not only shift people's minds and change cultures eventually, but also create short-term change, like being used as proof, changing policy, criminal charges, changing laws, and so this fox was either euthanized or rehomed, and something really pitiful, which kills me, is that fur farmers will brag that they add enrichment to the cages to keep the animals intellectually stimulated. So that little piece of white chewed tube, that's what they call enrichment for a fox.
Wow. Yeah, it just looks like a little piece of garbage because that's what it is. Um, yeah, you can also see like the fox appears to be kind of emaciated and unhealthy, but I mean they're just incredibly beautiful animals too. Um, and during the film, like there's an extended shot of all the foxes on that fur farm that you were at, and they're just all so beautiful, and they have these adorable faces. I mean, if people saw this, if it wasn't so hidden away, people would be outraged. And I think that is why fur is on the outs.
Yeah.
Most people don't like that we do fur.
And more than 20 countries have banned fur farming, a
Yeah.
national ban. In the film, we do focus for a while on a white fox who is bravely, she's so weak, but she's just bravely yelping lightly. Woo, woo, this haunting
Yeah.
sound. And we focused on her in the film because she looks like a dog. And hopefully people, like, this fox does not look like a dog, but that white fox did. And we
Yeah.
wanted to help people make the connection.
Yeah, that they're just like dogs, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's outstanding that you were able to get that result from this photograph, and it just shows the power of your work. Like you said.
And the power of teamwork, I will say.
Yeah.
The trifecta of awesomeness, as I will call it, is to have that's the technical jargon,
Yeah, yeah.
is to have a really good photographer or filmmaker or both, a media partner, and a campaign partner, so that the work gets out into the world maximally and will change things as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we had the campaign partner, which was the Montreal SPCA, and then they did a really good job at getting this story out into the media, and this was all over Canada. So it was a big success.
Wow, nice, nice. It's hard to even keep track of the status because there's so many updates about the fur industry lately. The EU seems to be close to getting rid of a lot of it. And a friend of mine has said that it looks like, America and Canada may be kind of like the fur industry's last stand. But I know that, the fur industry it exists on the East Coast of the United States, but it's mostly on the West Coast. But like, what's the status of fur farming in Canada? And I should mention, I think you're Toronto based. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
I have been to fur farms across Canada, and mm, farmers defend the industry, saying that it creates jobs, but these farms are not populated with people busily fixing things or looking after animals. Fur farms employ very few people. They are funded heavily by government subsidies, which is just tragic because we don't need to be doing this at all.
Yeah.
And furthermore, I mean, keeping millions of mink and foxes in Canada in cages increases fishing. You know, like these animals, part of what's mixed into their food is fish meal, and so you know, just get rid of fur farming, and maybe we'll save our oceans and save the fish in them. You know, a little bit more.
Yeah. In the film, one of the things that's striking about the fur farm segment also was how easy it looked. Like it shows you guys looking at the Google map and, how vulnerable the farm was. I'm wondering if that's representative of, your experience at fur farms in terms of like, yeah, you could, park over here and, basically walk. No, it's not. It's
You know,
tougher.
that's interesting because I have never very easily entered a fur farm. Most of them, you know, there are cameras, there are huge walls, there's barbed wire, there are houses nearby. The animals get really loud when you're nearby. They're excited, they think food is coming, or they're defending their young and they're stressed.
Mm,
And so if they're too loud, then you have to leave. So
mm.
I'm sorry to hear we made it look so easy.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Well, I
never
guess
easy.
I guess easy wasn't the right word, but you're there talking with someone who knew the layout. So he's like, yeah, there's houses over here, there's stuff over here. You are seeing climbing over a fence, and uh, but I mean, the point I was making more is just that you know I think historically one of the reasons why fur farms have been targeted by activists has been that everyday people can reach them. Um, Unlike, say, a factory farm that is heavily, heavily fortified. But maybe you're telling me that's, at least in Canada, it's pretty tough.
You can't get on the fur farms on the East Coast. So we flew over them and got incredible footage showing how close they are to riverways, and you know that they directly cause the algae blooms that are happening in waterways. And
Mm.
no, I would say a lot of fur farms are also impenetrable.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting. All right. Well, I don't want to, you were hoping to go about an hour, and I've gotten through like about one third of these photos. So let me go, let me share another one here. Now we've already seen this one if you guys were watching in the on the website, but this is an incredible photo. Look at this.
This is one of our most shared images. It's so important for us to find creative ways of showing the scale of industrial farming. So, what you're looking at are rows of crates where calves are kept. The calves have been taken away from their mothers so that we can drink milk. They'll go on to be dairy cows, or they will go on to be slaughtered for veal, so we can eat veal. And so, two things is that this is shot from so far up that you can see the shadows of the clouds.
Yeah, right.
And this is a portion of this farm. If you watch the video, it pans and pans and pans and pans. And the longer it pans along these things without an end, the more freaked out you get.
Wow. And it's
What
already staggering.
It's already staggering. And what that truck is in the middle, that's a milk delivery truck. So it just spouts milk into each bucket. Yeah.
Wow. And so these are the babies who have been taken from the mother and housed in these little crates.
In the heat. This is in Arizona, I believe.
Wow. Yeah, that would be insanely hot, I think. And I mean, you can't even count this. Like, I mean, I couldn't count this. It's just an incredible number of. And so you're saying this expands outward significantly.
And this is proof of what activists call factory farming or
Right.
industrialized farming. People don't want to believe that. People want to cling to the images that the industry shows us. But no, this is like, what else is this other than factory and industrialized?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And So, and this is I guess a drone shot, right? This is from the sky, and I mean, this place is so massive that I'm sure like you would see this flying over, it looks like a small city.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, I mean, dairy is just so useless to us too, and it's so bad for, I mean,
Mhm.
I just blows my mind that we're still doing it. Like, I go to this coffee shop all the time, and I'm always hearing people called out, latte with oat milk, and I'm like, I know all these people aren't vegans, so like, who's drinking milk anymore? I think a lot of it
Mhm.
goes to the cheese and stuff, and
Yeah, yeah. Hey, one thing I will mention about this picture, I haven't said the name of the photographer because they use a pseudonym, and a
mm,
lot of our photographers have to use pseudonyms in order to protect themselves legally.
right.
We do have to break laws sometimes in order to get images. And so this photographer goes by Ram Daya, and I want to shout them out for the hard work they did. Millions of people have seen this image now because of his hard work.
That's amazing, Ramdaya. So, and he's someone who's, I'm sure on your website and has a lot, like you could filter by his work and
Yeah,
check out all the stuff that he's done.
that's right.
Uh, yeah, that is an amazing image. And this like this kind of goes back to what I was asking before, like what's the difference between this professional work and someone with a phone? And I don't mean that, to say anything derogatory. I'm glad that people are using their phones to take photos and stuff.
But we need images that are high quality, skilled, taken by skilled photographers who have looked at composition and thought about composition and
Yeah.
who can work well under stress. That's another thing. It's easy to get really shitty pictures when you're stressed out in front of stressed out animals or in a volatile situation.
Yeah. When you see the images in scale like this, like they can be almost mesmerizing. You mentioned that this photo's been seen by many, many people. Like, where's it been published? Has it gotten out in major publications?
I'm not sure that it has. Um,
It
I
should.
I just know that it went quite viral. I remember the moment where Hilary Swank shared it, and we're like, yes, all right. How did she get her hands on this? And
Yeah.
it just went and went and went and went. And people remember it. People talk about it. If people meet me, people who meet me often say, "Hey, that photo of," and then this is mentioned.
Yeah. Let me share this one here. Um, this one is interesting. I'm just going to say straight off the bat, I feel a little embarrassed. I wasn't quite clear. Are we looking at a bear or a dog? And so I wrote bear dog when I saved this photo.
Okay, well, I included this image for you and your audiences today because this photo is kind of lying to us. And this is a bear. This is an unusual and rare bear. This is a Malayan sun bear. And the story of this photo is that though he is in a cage, he's actually at a sanctuary and
Uh,
he has a lot of space to roam around in. But a lot of sanctuaries have cage like areas, enclosures where the animals come in to sleep at night or receive vet care or get their food.
hmm,
And this bear was used for bear bile farming, which is a less and less common practice in Asia, thank goodness. Their gallbladders are tapped for bile, which is used in traditional Chinese medicine. He was one of the lucky bears who was rescued. Now, I'm going to say something really shocking. Um, Bear paw soup is also something that is eaten in some countries in Asia, and he was slated to be killed. But before they killed him, they further mutilated him by cutting off his paws for bear paw soup. So his two front paws are gone, and it's like, you know what? I'm saying this, and I'm like, how can it be real? I mean, I've known this for so long, and I almost feel like I'm making shit up because it just is so impossible, but it's
Yeah.
not impossible. And so he was rescued. Before he was killed, he was rescued, and he came in. He likes being around people, and someone, like, he just looked so sad, and someone said he looks sad, but he's begging for his favorite treat, which is pineapple jam.
Nice.
And and I got too close to him. I wasn't. They were pretty lax about me being there, and they hadn't said like, "Don't get too close." No, no. Bears are really fast animals. He can put his stumps through the the cage, and I got really close to take this image, and he actually grabbed me very, very quickly, and he pulled me against the cage, and he could have bitten me and he could have hurt me, but he didn't. He was, acting. He was playing. He was
Right.
doing something that a bear does. I
Yeah.
was really lucky to have not been harmed by him, but I also was acutely aware that I was held in his arms for a moment, like by his stumps,
Mm-hmm.
and that he let me go, and that he remains playful with people, with me, with others. And it was quite a moment to think, like, how could a bear like him have gone through so much, lived in a cage his whole life, have had his legs cut off, and still want to spend time with us and be curious about us. It was, what is it a testament to? I'm not sure. And I, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe to, is it forgiveness, or is it just, accepting his lot in life? I'm not sure. I'm not that bear, but he certainly made me think a lot.
Yeah, well, it could also be, I was thinking the word forgiveness too, but also it could be that this bear is smart enough to know these are people who are kind to me, and
Yeah.
and not the people who did this to me. And I wonder, you've been to so many places. Um, do you ever get that sense from animals that they have a sense that you're there not to cause harm, but to expose?
Yes. Yeah. And I make sure to do my best around them to make myself gentle and small.
Hmm.
I don't move quickly. I speak quietly. I'm wielding a big tool in front of my face, so that can be intimidating.
Yeah.
And I make sure that they can see it, that I move it quietly. And I'm not there to grab at them. I'm not there to inject them. I'm not there to cut them or move them. I say cut because that's, an experience that pigs have when they're born. We cut off their tails, castrate them without anesthetic, cut their ears, vaccinate them, all these things. And so I do have a sense that, no, I know that they know the difference between someone who has gentle intentions towards them, in rather than like someone who doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, this is a good time, I think, to show this other image. But before I do, I just want to say the whole thing about the paws being removed. I didn't know that until you just told me that. And I keep saying this like week after week that I'm surprised I keep learning new things because I've read many books now. I've read, I've seen many documentaries. You think at some point you'd reach the end of all the horrible things we do to animals, but it's like never ending. It's just never ending. I knew about the bear bile farming. It just sounds awful. But by the way, looks like such a beautiful, caring animal. And that is a great photo.
I
But
wonder, I wonder why he's missing teeth.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe this farm removed teeth so that they couldn't bite, but he has one. Maybe he chewed on the bars so much that he wore down his teeth. Sometimes when bears are rescued, they remove teeth where the nerve is exposed because they've been
mhm,
chewing on bars so much, and so it's a surgery, but then they're much more pain free afterwards. But I don't know.
yeah. Well, let me show this one because you're getting to like, this is a sanctuary, and here, here we have farm sanctuary, where you express in the film that this is your home with it's your sanctuary as well. So why don't you tell me a little bit about this awesome looking place.
Yeah, it's so important to show the good with the bad. We need to see proof of how we treat animals, but we also need to inspire people. That's a responsibility of mine and of We Animals as well, is to empower people by showing them incredible stories and showing, yeah, you can have this kind of relationship with a cow. You can not eat them and appreciate them instead. So we have Jean on the left and Opie on the right. Jean is the co-founder of Farm Sanctuary, and he was doing an investigation, found Opie left for dead on a farm, and took Opie. And with staff and volunteers at his sanctuary, Farm Sanctuary, nursed him back to health. And Opie lived, I think, 14 or 16 years with friends, human and bovine alike. And it's a really sweet picture because of how they're looking at each other.
Yeah, longingly looking at each other.
And they're just, they're enjoying the setting sun in one of the many pastures. Yeah, quite proud of
Yeah.
this, quite proud of this sweet picture.
Yeah, much as you know, like I keep referencing the film, but there's a lot of shots during the film. By the way, I just watched this yesterday. That's why it's so very fresh on my mind. But yeah, there's a lot of shots of you, doing the same, hanging out with the cows and getting some good animal time. And it's almost like bittersweet because, like, kind of like the bear photo you just showed me. It's like these are nice places, but you're also seeing kind of like what they've been rescued from. Um, in some cases, you're seeing the signs of what they've come from. Um, but at least with this lovely image, it looks like a very healthy cow, lovely looking cow. By the way, I've never actually talked to Gene Bauer before, but everybody that I know who has met him speaks incredibly highly of Gene.
He's still working hard. He spends his
Yeah.
summers on the sanctuary. He spends the rest of the year in DC, um, working on, steadfastly on improving animal welfare
Yeah.
and
Well, let
supporting
me,
veganism.
yeah, yeah. Well, a great advocate. We're a little over an hour. Do you still have some time?
I have to go in 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay, let me pick some good ones then. There's still a few left.
And
Okay,
if you have any final questions, non-picture related, reach out
yeah,
to us too.
let me see. Well, let me just show this one. I thought this one was quite powerful too. And we didn't talk about laboratories. So can you tell me a little bit about this image?
This image was shot this year in Mexico, thanks to a really incredible group called Te Protejo. They work in Latin America. And Te Protejo makes alliances with researchers who also advocate for a reduction of use of animals in research and an increase in substitutes, non-animal methods. And because of this partnership between Te Protejo and the researcher allowed us to visit his lab, where he was making improvements. We went to a few labs actually, and with people who were like, okay, we want to show what it's like here, and we want to show the improvements we're making. And so I was able to photograph tens of thousands of rats and mice, and they would sometimes take a box out and just put it on a trolley and take the lid off. And so I would photograph the animal or animals running around in the box and looking out from the box. And this is one of the pictures I got, which is so emotive. It's one of the images from this shoot that's been widely used. And I mentioned earlier that the trifecta of awesomeness is a good photographer, media outlet, and campaigners. So these campaigners, Te Protejo, put a lot of money into media, and where these images of animals used in research ended up were on the subways, inside the subway system, as big billboards in Mexico City. Millions upon millions of people saw these images, and the call out was, I think it said something simple like, not just a number, she's a mother, and it's images like this, or like with rats and mice with their babies. with a link to find out more. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, really amazing. Um, so I've alluded to this image, so why don't I just show this one? Let me give a trigger warning. I'm about to show a graphic image. So don't look if you don't want to see something upsetting. Okay. So yeah, this is, like you said, maybe one of the most graphic images, maybe on the website, one of the more violent images that you've ever captured.
Yeah, I've captured so many graphic images, but I would say that this could be the best photo I've ever taken. And it tells, it says so much. And I could walk you through it, and just so briefly, this pig is in her final moments. You see the man with the knife in the background and this bowl of blood. She's kneeling in the blood of others, and you can see the action of the club coming down upon her head, which, by the way, doesn't stun them. It just knocks them down and causes them a lot of pain. There's drips of water flying off the flying club, and it kind of looks like a painting. It's got this like pre-Raphaelite coloring. The people, there are so many people involved in this, and it's an image that has to be handled with a lot of care, because unfortunately many people react to this by saying, NIMBY, this does not happen in my backyard, this happens over there, and will go on to make incredibly racist comments. And that's the last thing we want when we show an image like this. And so the image needs hand holding when we publish it. We need to talk about human rights along with animal rights. We need to talk about the experiences of workers, some of it which I've heard, from their mouths. It was, and then, me in the midst of this. This is one image, but a few minutes later, I was walking over the bodies of like 10 different pigs who were bleeding out, and the blood and water was just sluicing around my ankles.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a kind of out of body experience for me to be there. But what I did is, because I was a white girl with expensive cameras, and they could have worried that I was exploiting them, I just made sure to convey to them in any way that I could that I was not there to exploit them. I was there to show how food is produced and show various experiences. And I smiled at them and talked with them through a translator when I could. And I did my best to make sure that, they didn't feel exploited. And they let me take close-up portraits of them. And some of them were proud of how they worked. Some of them weren't, but some of them, were kind of show-offs, and they were really good at what they did. And they were really good at slicing up pigs and very fast at it. And, it was quite an experience.
Well, that just kind of sums up to me the work that you do and how much gratitude I have for you to put yourself in situations like that, to bring this imagery to the world so that people can see what is happening. So I'm going to let you go, Jo-Anne, but it's been such an honor to talk to you. And like I said, it was very surreal for me to meet you in San Francisco a year ago or so. We went and saw Dune, by the way. That was really fun.
It was.
And
It was a lot of fun.
yeah, I just had this moment where I was looking around. I'm like, I'm sitting here watching Dune with Jo-Anne McArthur, and I was like, my life just got really cool all of a
That's
sudden.
hilarious. That's hilarious. I think that people are really curious about photographers, and we get glorified because we go to the front lines. But I maintain that I can't do most of what the rest of the animal movement is doing, and we all work in partnership. It's the only way to do it. So I'm glad that I can be of service in this way, so that campaigners and activists can do what they do best. And partnerships is the only way forward.
Well, you're changing the world, Jo-Anne, and I can't thank you enough. And I'll make sure that we put all the links down below to We Animals, to your books, so that people can check out more. And yeah, I just yeah, thank you so much. It means a lot to me.
Thanks so much for having me on and wanting to engage on the subject matter and really get into the picture as clearly. you really want to go deep with these images. I appreciate that we got to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're always invited back on my channel anytime. I know you're a busy person, but if you ever want to come on and just like waste a couple of hours on my tiny YouTube channel, you're welcome. Just invite yourself on.
Thank you. It was so much fun talking with you.
All right. Take care. Bye.